Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our next webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm delighted today to be joined by three travel agents who are right on the front line, dealing with customers, dealing with all the different changes that are happening constantly. So let's welcome them. We've got David Walker, aka the Travel Snob. So morning, David.
Morning.
Lee Harrison, who is from Malvern World Travel. So hello, Lee. And last but not least, we have Sue Welsh, who is from Ace Travel too. So thank you all so much for joining me. Really, we just want to get an idea how things are going for you. So, I mean, we're in the middle of peaks, or what it should be. And I just wonder, it's clearly not the same as a normal year, but how are things going? Let's start with you, David.
So I've been pleasantly surprised, let's say, of how January went and how February's going. It's obviously not as good as previous, but I think from what we expected, then it's really gone extremely well for me. So yeah, it's been good. I've had not as many bookings as I would normally do, but all have been much higher value, and they're all very much forward bookings. Really anything from October onwards this year up to 23. I've been booking cruises for 2023. So yeah,
okay.
all nice high value.
High value, but looking obviously not this year, not Easter, not summer. I mean, I know we don't know anything yet, but you're just basically looking beyond that to be safe.
Yeah, with the exception of two bookings. One was January, but the passenger's already in resort, and she just extended for another 3 months. So that was a nice, easy booking to do. And another one, really, it was a Switzerland ski break, but for clients that live in Switzerland. So one of my focuses was to look at people that were overseas already, because obviously they haven't got the travel bans that we have. So I kind of looked into who I'd got on my database that wasn't UK based, and managed to pick up the Switzerland one at least. And I'm talking to a few others as well now.
Okay, well, that's pretty creative. That's a good idea. All right, let's come back to you and ask you a bit more about exactly how you've been selling. But Lee, what's it been like for you? You've got an office as well, and the other two I know work from home, so it might be a bit different for you.
No, we work from home as well. We used to be shop based for 16 years. For the last 10 years, actually, we've been working from home. But yes, 2021 is not the start we were hoping for. When you think this time last year, we had planes flying at 800 miles an hour, breaking records across the transatlantic. This time last year, we also had Storm Kiara. We were wondering about clients going off to Singapore and then off to Australia. And the only worry at those times were bushfires. And then, of course, as we know, what happened, we had to get clients coming back from India, from cruises, and part of the Travel Network Group, as we are as World Choice, we're absolutely brilliant with our cruise club in changing plans and getting flights back. We've been getting inquiries, but my main worry at this time is more about the insurance based, and that's really putting clients from booking at the moment because they're just not getting that cover.
Okay, all right. Let's come back. We'll come back again to you as well, Lee. But let's just quickly come on to you, Sue. What's the start of this year been like for you?
Obviously, very similar to David and Lee. Not as good as we all wanted, but I tried to push people to book for next year. It's kind of trying to be positive to say, well, why don't you try and book for next year? So I have done quite a few bookings for next year. I'm doing one today for skiing in January next year. So it's getting that confidence in people to say, well, we will come out of this. So book now for next year. I haven't done as much marketing as I would normally do, because obviously we're all in a bit of a fed up place. But yeah, I'm trying to be positive. So I've not had, I have still got bookings going this March to the Maldives and places like that. So yeah, I'm all right. I just have to try and be positive and put that over to our customers as well. If you believe in this, we're going to come out of this, then people will book with you. And it's trying to keep in contact with your customers as well. That's what I'm trying to do.
And let's just talk then about this confidence issue, you know, because we've had the government putting out adverts saying it's illegal to go on holiday. I mean, we know that at the moment, but that doesn't instill an awful lot of confidence to sort of to book ahead. And you know, there's obviously constant things on the news, and I know it does concern people. So, David, do your customers come to you worried, and you just able to turn them around and explain that it's okay, or have you got you just lucky that you've got some more gung-ho travellers who are just desperate, pent-up demand, want to go away, or how does it work?
So I think, as Sue said, I've remained positive, or as positive as anybody can be throughout all of this. I've never posted anything, and I post quite a lot, but I've never posted anything doom and gloom. I've never posted the government aren't helping us. Mine's always been, let's book something to look forward to. So, you know, I'm posting 22 and 23 offers. So, you know, I think that's another year. So people, I don't think anyone thinks we're going to be in this situation this time next year. When this all kicked off in March, I mean, we were doing rebooks, and I'm sure, like everybody, I was thinking, oh, you'll be fine for the summer. Let's rebook it for August. You know, little did we know then. But, you know, I've had a high rate of repeat customers because we've looked after them so well.
Yeah.
You know, I've given customers the choice of a refund, which, you know, when we get that refund, I'm right, great, you've got the refund, now how we're going to spend it. You know, just expecting them to book another holiday, but for the future. You know, and the new customers that I've been picking up, and I picked up quite a few, that's all been about, well, let's book something for next year. They all want to go away this year. So I'm making that note and saying, you know, literally when we know where and when we can go, we'll get something booked in for this year. So it's about...
So they're booking, sorry, David, so they're booking ahead.
Yes.
So they can get that done because they're confident about that. But they're also saying to you, the minute we know, we'll also book for this year. So they're not foregoing this year yet. They're committing for further out, but waiting for this year.
Yes. Yeah, they're not ruling. So I did a 23 cruise, and this lady just cruises all the time, and she's like, and then when we can book more, we'll book more for this year and next year. But it's just about waiting. And I'm quite happy to do that, because then we don't go through the process of the rebook and the refund.
Yes, that is a headache, isn't it? And I know lots of companies, well, even the big companies, you've got people out on the beach and stuff, they're basically saying we're not going to take anything before March the 1st. So are you sort of looking at a bit like that, Lee? Are you sort of saying, actually, we don't want the hassle of having to try and book anything now for the next few months, we just look further out?
Love the hassle really of booking things at the moment, but obviously I think we do have to be realistic. The government, I think, made a mistake of bringing us out of lockdown far too late. The Christmas period really should have been November, maybe even earlier. And so I think we have to be realistic that the 22nd of February, when they're going to be rethinking things, is it still too early to be, you know, bring us out of lockdown? I think probably it is. You know, we've got to be looking maybe after Easter and see what happens there. The big thing on the agenda seems to be about staycations, and I think the government has more about trying to keep people at home this summer. And what effect is that going to have on the places like Bournemouth, Cornwall, that we all love everywhere else? It's just probably going to be bringing that problem back again, maybe. So
yes, we're hoping to hear something about how the government's going to bring us out on the 22nd. But do you think that travel will be included in that? I mean, at the moment we think it's going to be schools, then it could be pubs, but now they're saying you won't necessarily be able to get an alcoholic drink in a pub till, even if they open it, you might be able to get a drink till May. So I'm thinking travel, you know, if they're not even going to let us have a drink in a pub, I'm not convinced that they're going to let us go and travel.
No, I don't think they will. And I think this is where people's confidence to travel for past October and into next year, I think people do still have to be looking very properly at the terms and conditions of operators how they're going to be react along with the insurances or the insurances they're not getting. And those are the problems that I don't want landing on my doorstep. I mean, we've just had a £15,000 cruise that we'd love to have been taking, but the client was a solicitor. And very much, she's just ripped apart all of the terms and conditions, and they're not suitable for them at the moment to be booking that cruise.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that just because of work that we've done on it later, that they're just not booking it now.
So, and you mentioned that in your first answer as well about this insurance. So that's obviously the biggest concern. You're one of the biggest concerns for your customers is even if I've got the confidence to travel, I want to make sure I've got the absolutely full policy in place, and that's what you're struggling with.
I think because the terms and conditions at the moment of obviously the government there, so which insurers are actually saying that are going to cover for cancellation, and under what types of cancellation.
Yeah.
We all know basically where the government's advisories are there that operators have and will be refunding. That's all we've been doing for the last 10, 11 months. But if the government's advisories change to a certain extent, where some travel could still be going ahead, the clients want to know, well, okay, am I going to be covered or am I not? We'd love to have that crystal ball to say, well, yes, certainly you would be.
So it's that uncertainty and causing some confusion there. Obviously, this morning we've written about the government potentially requiring a couple of tests now. So you've got the test that you need 72 hours before departing and coming back into the UK, and then when you're in the UK, you might have to have a test after 2 days and then after 8 days. Which, I mean, suddenly that's 3 lots of tests, which is extremely expensive. And I know, David, you were saying you're getting some very high value bookings, so perhaps that's not an issue for some, wealthier clients. But does that, Sue, impact on people's decisions as well, the cost of things? Because it's not just the holiday cost anymore, is it? It's all this testing, which you can ramp up with a family of 4, let's say.
I think it can, but some people are so desperate they want to go on holiday, they actually do pay it. I think it's changing now because obviously you go on holiday and you've got to quarantine, that's different, but people do find it. That's my customers at Christmas, they had all the tests to go to, where did they go? Can't remember where they went. Long-haul, but they had all these tests to go, and they were quite willing to pay it because they were so desperate to go on holiday. So they did pay it. People do find it. So yeah, my customers did pay it, and they will pay it going forward. I've got lots of customers going to the Maldives in March. They're quite happy to pay the test, and they're quite happy to quarantine when they come back. So they're desperate to go on this holiday that they should have gone on last March, and it's like, a 25-day holiday. So yeah, they do
also
find it.
With insurances and securities and guarantees, I think a lot of the suppliers have up their ante with their, no quibble cancellation and their guarantees and their sort of COVID policies. And as long as my customers are getting a copy of that as we book, so that they know what the options are nearer the time. I mean, a lot of people have the right to cancel 30 days before the trip now. So, and everything that we're booking for forward is on a deposit. So yes, whilst it's a risk, as long as they can see that they've got the option to cancel beforehand, then it's a lot less of a risk.
Right.
But we also have, as part of Not Just Travel, we've linked up with Rush Insurance. So we've kind of got some COVID insurance that we can then offer. So if they, they fail those tests before they go, they still have to pay for them. But if they fail them, then we can claim back off Rush Insurance. If they have to quarantine, if they have to, self-isolate before they go, again, they can claim back. And we did that with one family, and that's given me a lot of peace of mind. And, I'm saying to customers, we don't need to add it now because we don't know what the situation will be in October, but we can add it on the more we know at the time.
Okay.
But in shorter travel, they do cover COVID as well. I've been using them in short travel. So they have got a policy, a section for COVID on them. So that installs confidence in people as well. So there is options out there for covering on the insurance side.
I think it's only certain types of obviously that type of cover, but also the other one you got to where people are traveling against the government's advice. But for instance, I believe for America, you can only book that if it's, I think, within 3 months of travel. So again, that's a prohibitive for somebody wanting to travel long haul, but let's say doing the States for October and November.
But if they're traveling against FCO advice, that's where the refunds come in anyway, or the pre-books.
It depends, because I question this, and through the Travel Network group, there was a possibility, I'm just looking at it here, where depending what they call, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but frustration of contract argument and where that might come in against certain advisories. So for instance, when cruising came in, the government's advice was originally for anybody over 70s. So they weren't stopping everybody from all travel. So again, I think this is where from our cruise booking came in, and our client, who is a solicitor pulling apart, was looking literally at everything. So ABTA's advice, for instance, was saying that tour operators might refund. She was saying that's not a guarantee that they will refund. And I think that's where more clarity needs to come in from operators within their terms and conditions, looking at it long haul, maybe for bookings of 2022, 23. And I think even Sandals have launched up to 2024, have they? I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, most people are bringing out their programs, aren't they, much earlier to try to do exactly as to meet the demand that you're seeing, to be able to book these in advance. Just on your own sort of personal or your business finances, though, because you obviously, if you're selling holidays, David, for 2023, you know, it's great that you're getting these bookings in, but you're not making the money, are you? So, I mean, I think that's been certainly some of the messages we've been getting from our readers, that, you know, yes, okay, we can still sell enough in advance, and of course everybody wants to get the bookings in, but it's not really helping you with your cash flow and being able to sort of keep going. And I know lots of people have had to take out grants and loans and various things. So I'm not prying into your sort of fully into your finances, but is that still a worry that you've got to still get to when these people depart on their 2022-23 booking?
I think when you see what you've got in the future, that's a massive hope that you know everything is going to be okay. So it's worth doing it. You know, these people, and again, I have a very long list of people ready to travel when they can and when we know where we can. So I know that is almost instant money. So that, you know, they go in March, we get paid in April.
Okay.
And, you know, when all this started, I kind of worked out my finances, and I know that really I'm going to be okay until the end of this year if no one travels still. But, you know, my other half has been since made redundant, so that has made a little bit of a change. But we just have to do what we need to do, or don't do what we did before. So, you know, we've learned to lower our spending, as it were, to cope with nothing coming in. And we know nothing's coming in, but my clients don't realise that. They think everything's hunky-dory when they speak to me.
Do they? And that's back to your positivity then, which is clearly working for you. What about you, Sue? Because I know we had a conversation and we've covered your sort of trying to get support, which you felt has been lacking, and I know you were trying to get your MP involved, etc. Yeah,
that's still ongoing. They did actually write to the House of Commons, so that's all still ongoing, and she's not given up on me yet. But a bit like David, I know I've got pipeline kind of money coming in eventually. So I've given myself to the end of this year. I do have another little part-time job that I do at night time now. So I did that before all of this anyway. So that's been my lifeline, really. So yeah, I'm all right until the end of this year, but I'm hoping obviously this pipeline business that I've got will keep me going until next year. So I am being positive, and I'm not going to give up yet. And I won't give up on the grants, because I do think that's a little bit unfair, because I work from home, I'm based from home, not eligible for anything. So I'm not going to give up on that. And if I do get anything, then happy days. If not, then I just have to keep being positive and keep going.
So just talk to us about that, Sue. You're basically, you know, if you were in a shop for a long while, and then you've been now working from home, and I suppose your argument is, well, it's still the same business, and yet you've not got a grant just because of your location.
Because I'm not eligible. So I still have to pay my fees like Lee does with the network group. I still have to pay my business insurance. I still have to turn my lights on, whether I'm in an office or not. So I think it's unfair, and they have agreed that, you know, they've missed out on this. You know, it's not only in the travel industry, many people work from home, don't they? But you're not eligible because you work from home, and I don't pay business rates. But my argument is then people that have shops, they might have been exempt from business rates anyway, and they still have it. So I know that some people have had up to kind of 90,000, and it's a grant that you don't have to give back. So I'm not asking for a fortune, just I think what I'm duly eligible for, and I'm not eligible for anything they're saying.
And just before we move on, Sue, have you, you know, your MP has written for you, but does she feel that you've got a good case? Are you? I know you're not going to give up, but do you think you're confident you might get something?
Might get some, even if it's just 5,000 or something. But it's a department called Strategic Growth, and I've now gone on to the councillor of my borough, of Trafford Borough, and he's saying they do realise that they've, you know, they've let a lot of people down. So they're actually waiting for some kind of information from the government to see if they can give us something. But what bugs me is one lady on that Zoom the other week, she was in a different borough, and her council gave us some money. They gave her a grant. So it was one rule for one area and one rule for another. And I think that's
she
unfair.
have a very similar business set up to yours?
Yeah, she's a travel counsellor, and she worked from home for 10 years, and she got some funding. You know, it is unfair. I pay my council rates, you know, tax and things like that. And they say we'll get a bounce back loan. I can have one tomorrow if I wish, but you've got to find the money to pay it back.
You've got to pay it back, although they have now extended the time to pay that back. But you would like a grant, obviously, where it's just to support that you have.
It would just help you and kind of, you know, just if it helps till the end of this year. But I'm hoping that come kind of May time, that if, you know, Greece opens or something, then, you know, you've just got to kind of work round the clock again to try and help. You know, got customers that are desperate to go on holiday, me being one of them. I'm David.
Well, I think everybody
we all are. So I'm hoping, and I will let you know the outcome of that, because I'm like a dog with a bone. I email every other day, and I think they're going to get fed up of me because I think,
that's one way to do it. So, one way to do it. Well, we fingers crossed for you. I really hope you get that.
Yeah.
Lee and David, have you managed to get any support at all, financial support from anywhere? Have you applied for any? What's been your experience? Lee?
Oh yeah, I haven't even applied.
Have you not?
I just don't think we're going to get anything, and I just think the amount of paperwork that they then ask for, and they'll just come round and say you're not going to get it. So I just haven't.
We have persevered and we have got it, but I think, like Sue said, in certain areas it might be slightly different. So under Malvern Hills District Council, they've actually been quite quick coming back. I forget the name of one of the grants that we got.
You've got local restrictions, you've got national restrictions, and then you've got one called ARG, which is a local restriction. So if I'd like to know what borough you're in, because that's information I'd take back and say, well, another gentleman that works from home, he's managed to get this grant. So it's one rule for one, one rule for another.
Yeah, we're registered as an LLP, so I don't know whether that has any difference in our standing working from home. So we're not a limited company like we used to be when we had our shop. But that might be slightly
I'm a limited company. I'm a limited company.
Yeah.
And so was it? You're saying it was quite quick. It was just a few forms to fill in, and then you got what you were after.
Well, we didn't think we were going to get it originally, but we had the information that came through, and we thought, well, if they're either going to say yes or no. And in fact, one other TTA member quite close to us in Worcestershire didn't actually know about this grant, so we did say to her, "Have you applied for it?" And she got it as well. So.
And she's a home worker.
Yes, very much so.
And is she a limited company?
I'm not sure how she works as a TTA member, but yeah, I would probably say if you're MPs, also it's worth keeping up with them and keep bombarding your local council.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that is interesting, isn't it? That you've all had a very different experience, and it does seem like it can vary where which constituency
you live.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll definitely follow that, Sue, with interest, and I'm sure Lee will pass on to use perhaps separately about how he did that and how he helped his colleague at TTA. Couple of people mentioned there how people are just desperate. You both use, I mean, I think David and Sue, you've used this word, people are desperate to go. Where are they wanting to go? Is it a case of just get me anywhere, or is there certain destinations they are more attracted to, or some they're worried about potentially because of that country's vaccine rollout program, because that will affect things ultimately? Or, I mean, David, you're just shaking your head. Are they're just going where you're recommending?
They just want sun. They just want sunshine. You know, so I had a Barbados cancel for January. Again, it was cancelled, not the customer. And she's like, well, can't I still go? And it's like, well, technically you can't. Well, keep the money. And then the minute I can go anywhere, just book it. Right. Okay. Same thing with an Antigua, you know, same thing with Tenerife. So it's not just the long haul ones. It's that, you know, that I just want to go away and get some sun. You know, a lot of people I find that go away in the winter are out of term time, are retired, and they want to go away for 2 or 3 weeks, and they've really missed that long term holiday.
Presumably these people then you're talking about hadn't had their vaccine at that stage.
No, not even then, you know, but they just want to go away. But also they don't care about quarantine because they're not working. So they're quite happy to go away for a month and then come back and quarantine for a month, you know, or vice versa. They just want sunshine. That's all people want.
And is that sort of is that indicative of your database, David, that they're slightly more wealthy, more mature people, or have you got a range? You know, because I'm just interested to know whether if you're younger or perhaps on a bit of a budget, whether you have got different views on where you would go, and you know.
I think my brand, if you like, promotes a few high ends.
Yeah.
But you know, from starting up historically, I would take, you know, if my customer isn't in their own bed, I want to know about it, regardless of where they're going. So, you know, whether it be a week in Tenerife or around the world cruise, I want to book that. I want to get to know the customer. So there's longevity with the tours, and so they only have one travel agent, and that's the purpose of what they book. But I think another thing that with the refunding process last year, you know, I've really fought to get refunds as soon as I can for everybody. And I know that's not easy with the suppliers, but having got refunds quickly, I'm offering them. I think when you offer a refund, it's easy for that customer to rebook. So I've fought with the supplier, so I want to offer them a refund. I will try and get them to rebook because that's in both of our interests. But knowing they could have a refund makes them feel better about a rebook. If you only give them that one option, that's when you get the questions around, well, why can't I refund? You know, the majority of people that were offered a refund have rebooked, or they've had their refund and rebooked something else. So, you know, but again,
it's psychologically knowing that they could have had the money back.
Absolutely.
And then they spent it anyway. That's been a good follow-on sales tactic for you, just to get the money.
Yeah, so the Virgin Upper Class deal that came out in November, I booked 88 passengers on that on various trips. And so, of course, their balance is coming up in, you know, if they're traveling in May and June, which is when the offer was, April, May and June. But again, I just did May and June. Their balances is due next month. So I've already reached out to say, here's a list of, you know, I've reached out to the supplier to say, what are the options? You know, and then I've already given that to the customers. And to do the best thing for them, it means their balance has to be issued and the tickets have to be issued. And of all of the emails that I've sent out, not one person has come back and said, I'll cancel and lose the deposit. They've all said, I'll pay the balance in the hope that we can rebook if we can't go on the dates that we've got.
So that's fantastic. And that was a good deal that came out in November.
A really good deal. Yeah.
Okay. Lee,
it's about doing it ahead of time rather than what I've always tried, rather than them ringing up saying my balance is due, what's happening? I reach out to them before, so there's no questions.
And then you just look like you're completely in control, and they don't have to be worried about it.
Yeah, you know, the end of the email and that said, don't worry, here's my mobile number, guaranteed no call center. You know, and that is what people are hearing right now and they're afraid of. Whereas, you know, I think another line in that email was, "I've got your back." You
Yeah.
know, and people want to hear that, and so everything is being booked on trust.
Right.
And I'm booking stuff. You know, I think we've all realised over the last 10 months which supplier we're going to use more of and which supplier we're not going to go near again. And so, you know, all of the ones I'm using have certain guarantees. And same thing with these. You know, I got this. I even got the supplier to check my email, what I was saying in there, to make sure it matched the policy and what they
so that you weren't saying something that you couldn't actually deliver.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So and they've said yes, great email, brilliant. You know, so we've just got to be on top of things.
Yeah. Lee, I mean, that's interesting what David's been saying. What about your clients? If they are booking, where are they worried about certain things? Are they worried about certain destinations? Are they worried about going on a cruise in the future? Because I know you sell cruising, but what are they actually wanting when they go?
I think it's still that certain amount of security, and I mean, like David and probably Sue and lots of others. I mean, yes, we've all been fighting for those refunds and making the rebooks. You know, it's a shame. We had some clients that were due to go to India in January. I'm pretty sure that they will be rebooking at some stage. We're just waiting on their refund to come through. And I think those that travelled to Greece and Turkey last summer were tantamount to coming back and saying how felt it, so you know how safe it felt there, and maybe actually in Turkey in October they had to come back and do the quarantining, but actually they felt safer in Turkey than they did coming back having that quarantine. So I think that will be a case again maybe this summer if it does open up, that places like Greece and Turkey. Croatia has been another very popular destination as well.
Okay, and so you just mentioned Greece. I mean, obviously there was some reports, weren't there, last week that might well be one of the first to open. Is that a popular destination for your clients?
Some clients, they want to go to places like Mykonos, Santorini, and spend a little bit more money. They don't want to go till September, but I said, well, in the next couple of weeks, you can book it on your low deposit. So, yeah, there's people because they've got the confidence. And some of my friends and clients have now had the vaccine. So that's making a difference to people's kind of positiveness because they've had the vaccine and they think it's the best thing ever. Once you've had the vaccine, they're on a different level, aren't they? And they've got confidence.
And then obviously we've had this news this morning, though, that the Oxford AstraZeneca one may not be particularly effective against the South African variant. Do you think that will then make people more nervous again? It's almost like we have one step forward and then
10 steps back.
Yeah, because you sort of feel like you're getting momentum, just as we did before Christmas, and then we went into lockdown again. And there's sort of, you build a little bit, but then there's always like a bit of bad news.
There is, but I mean, when they first did these vaccines, they said that you'd have to have the second one 3 weeks later. But that's now 12 weeks later, isn't it? To have the booster. So there's changes all the time, but the virus, there's many different variants of the virus, isn't there? It's the South Africa one at this moment in time. It'll be something else next week, won't it? But then there's an element of the public out there that just thinks, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. And then we've heard a lot about, I mean, just as we sort of wrap up, I mean, it sounds like you're all, booking further ahead, still booking anywhere in the world. And yet we are hearing lots of research saying, all the searching is for staycations and everybody wants to stay at home. Is that, I love David, always goes against any research I might have been reporting on. But, but we have heard a lot of that if you go into some of these search engines or, that's what they're seeing, people perhaps looking for cottages in Cornwall, as Lee mentioned there. And would you get involved in that, or are you just saying to customers, stick with your...
I would. I mean, I'd do it on the luxury side. I've looked at many things in Cornwall and Padstow, but you're talking 3,500 for a nice luxury house for the week. People don't want to do that because they're not really guaranteed the sun, are they, sometimes? They think they'd rather spend the 3.5 grand on a nice go on a holiday abroad if that's what they're used to. The prices here in the UK have rocketed, haven't they? I was looking for a friend. She wanted to go to Cornwall in August this year, and next year it's actually booked up. So
that will be one of the issues.
For the likes of host seasons and sites, they're obviously, their phones must be off the hook because people they're doing what they're told, aren't they? Some people, and stay in the UK and staying in places like Cornwall, and they're doing what they're told. But then
you mean by the government?
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. And David, but you're saying your customers aren't really asking for a week in Yorkshire.
Well, they do, but it was mainly last year when there was kind of almost little hope of summer holidays. At that point, everyone wanted Cornwall, and the only thing available was the stuff that people didn't want for a reason. And I would have, my answer was, I'm really embarrassed to send you. I'd be really embarrassed to send you what's available at the cost that it is. And if I sent it to you, probably the last holiday you ever booked with me. So I'd rather not, but only on that reason. There was no point in convincing someone to go somewhere where they wouldn't normally go. And then get there and all the complaints. And then that goes back to, well, if that's your kind of holiday, I'm not going to book with you ever again.
Yeah, so you would sell it if you could find something on a par with what they're used to for their holiday at the right price.
But like Sue, you can't find anything half decent, because, a lot of people, even if we book it through the likes of Host Seasons or Sykes, those owners also have it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
So people are booking with 100% cancellation from Airbnb. So some people may have about 4 things booked.
Yes.
That have been savvy, and none of them will actually go. So I do think it's going to be the last minute ones. And then if they can't go to Greece, they can't go to Icos, they might just go to a really nice place in Cornwall if we can find it. But they're certainly not going to go to a caravan in Wales or Icos.
No.
No, all right, fair enough. Okay, well, look, we're probably about time, guys. That's really interesting just to get your take, because you're there, you're listening to what customers are saying, and and you're at that sharp end, as I said right at the outset, dealing with those issues like Lee said around insurance or people's concerns around sort of their safety and security when traveling. So we're really grateful for your time today, and we wish you all the best of luck. Carry on, David. Keep getting those bookings in for 2023, and the rest of you, I hope so. And good luck with your fight for your grant, Sue. We wish you well with that as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you so much. So, Dave.
Bye. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.